You're in Braves country. Good afternoon, Braves country. As we are getting ready for what should be a hell of a series with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I'm going to share the series times and everything on the screen here in a second. And long story short, we are going to go into this. If you haven't been with one of these Braves Country Todays before, what we do is we try to set you up for the entire series. What we try to do is we try to look at, first of all, what just happened in this series. We had so much good stuff. I don't think there's a lot of bad stuff to really go over in this series. So the fact that we took 2 of 3, let me see. Yeah, you can see it on the screen. It's fine. I'll change it to the starting pitchers here in a little bit. But you can see that we took 2 of 3 from St. Louis at home. And the only game that we lost was the bullpen game. So you got to take that as a huge positive. That's the only game we lost on the entire homestand, which means, and that's not necessarily going to happen that way because you would use your bullpen differently, et cetera, et cetera. But had Spencer Strider not going back to the IL, we might have been talking about a 6-game winning streak right now. But we've won 5 of 6. And one thing that we have dodged, and I hadn't even thought about this until I was looking at it after the game on Wednesday, or I would have mentioned it. I did not realize Corbin Burnes, their most talented pitcher, and he hasn't had a great start, but their most talented pitcher pitched last night. And he's the guy that got the big contract. For those of y'all who don't follow other teams, you really just kind of look at the Atlanta Braves and you kind of learn the rest of the way as it goes on the teams that they run into. And look, a lot of fans are like that, so there's nothing against that. He's having what is considered a down start. He still has a 4.05 ERA, which isn't too shabby. He still went 5 1/3 last night of 8 strikeouts. And he did walk 3, and they lost in extra innings, which is good news for us. So not only are we dodging Corbin Burnes, and not only is this a big series, because and we'll get into the big picture of it here in a second, but not only is it a big series, but we're going to dodge Burnes. And then also, I mentioned this on Wednesday's broadcast, I'm pretty sure. If not, I thought it. We dodged Erod because he pitched on Wednesday. So we're not going to face who I think, when it's all said and done, probably have their best stuff. Now, the guy we're facing tonight, Zach Gallen, isn't exactly a chump, but I'm talking about the guys that, if you look at it, if they get to the postseason and they set up their rotation 1, 2, 3, because of the righty-lefty aspect, I would think it would be, unless they're not pitching well or they're injured or whatnot, that you would start off with Burns and then probably go Erod if he's anything like he was a couple of seasons ago. Last year was bumpy because he signed late. It's the same nonsense that went on with everybody else. Signed late, never really got his footing till the end, that kind of thing. But 2023, he was a Cy Young candidate. If you remember, he was the guy that was in Detroit that blocked the trade to the Dodgers because he didn't want to go out to the West Coast, which is weird because then he signs a big free agent contract to go out to essentially the West Coast. But at the time we were being told he didn't want to be that far away from family. I guess he didn't want to be that far away from family for a small period of time. If he's going to go, then he wanted to pick up and go the entire season. So first of all, good to see y'all in the chat. I see Charles Fritz and hell, I'm sure others are out riding around listening, or however you bring into Braves Country baseball, Braves Country today. We do these for those of y'all that might be first timers or whatnot. If you're listening on radio, we do these on Monday and Friday typically, but it really comes down to when's the first day of the series. So the next few weeks it will be that way, because today, obviously, Friday is the first game of the series against Arizona. Monday, first game of the series at Colorado. And then the first game of the series next week at home will be Friday. And then they start another series. I believe it's that Monday against the Reds. And I think it's a 4-game stand against the Reds. So it'll be Monday, Friday for the foreseeable future. It's noon on the first day of the Braves series. That's the gist of it. But you look at the fact that not only did we take 5 of 6, we also are looking at the fact that we dodged their 2 most talented pitchers. Now, Zach Gallen has had some very good success. And I'm not expecting this to be an easy route. But he is coming in with a 5.6 ERA. At the same token, Chris Sale is coming in with a 6.17 ERA. So if you're looking at this blindly, and if you haven't paid attention to Major League Baseball, you would look at it and say, man, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Gallen, first of all, has been really good at home over the last few years. He tends to struggle more on the road, but he's been really good at home. We have faced Gallen. We faced him last year. He usually gives us fits. What we have been able to do against Gallen that we don't do against a lot of starting pitchers is we've been able to run the pitch count up early and get him the hell out of the game. And that'll be key, because when you look at the fact that the Diamondbacks lost last night in extra innings, and it was a close game, nip and tuck the whole way. And then you look at the fact that the night before, the Diamondbacks lost in extra innings, and it was nip and tucking the whole way. I actually watched quite a bit of that game after the Celtics Orlando game. I went out with some friends to watch that game, and when I came home, I watched the tail end of that. That was nip and tuck. So the point is, their bullpen is cooked. It should be cooked, because they've had a couple of really tough games, and they won on Monday against Fott, or with Fott, I should say. But Brandon Fott on Tuesday, it was Tuesday was the first game of the series, excuse me. Tuesday, the Diamondbacks in that game, Brandon Fott, he went 6 innings, and they used some of their late inning guys there too. They didn't use their closer last night or that night, but they have used their bullpen quite a bit. If we can get into this bullpen in this series, we have a very good chance of winning this series, because our bullpen should be pretty well rested. We're coming off a day off. once again, if you're just joining us, their two best pitchers just pitched the last 2 days, which means they won't pitch again until Monday, Tuesday at the earliest. So we're going to face Zach Gallen today, and we'll get into the rest of the series. Now, I always make notes and want to make sure I hit certain things. So let's start off with the smoke 'em if you got 'em.
What's all the shouting?
All right, so one thing I always like to do when we do this is I like to take a look at the fact that because we're doing this at noon, a lot of these writers like to drop stuff at noon, so I always double check real quick, but nothing has popped off in the really, really recent. So the first thing I want to get into is with the smoke 'em if you got 'em, the big thing, because people keep asking me about this. They keep asking me. Good to see you, John. Craig Kimbrel, what the hell's his deal? Well, he just started up in the AAA because they're trying to bring him up the right way and make sure that when he's ready, he's ready. And he was in Jacksonville last night. I actually stopped by and caught the tail end of the game. I was out there for just a little bit, but he was in Jacksonville last night, and they are playing the Jumbo Shrimp. The Stripers are. For folks who don't follow it, the Stripers, Braves, AAA, Shrimp, Jacksonville's Miami's AAA. But he goes out and throws his 5th straight hitless outing in the minor leagues because he was at the AA before that. So Craig Kimbrel, I believe, and I talked about this before, I believe there's assuming health, an almost sure guarantee that he is back with the Braves by the time we start our next homestand. They may bring him out earlier, depending on how this road trip goes, because we got 6 games on the road, and they're in hitter-friendly parks, really hitter-friendly park in Colorado. I'm hoping we get cold weather out there in Colorado because the ball doesn't fly as well, and it really helps your bullpen. So I'm hoping with them playing Colorado in April instead of June or July when we normally play them, it'll be kinder to our bullpen. But if they can get through these next 6 games without having to use him out there, then I would expect him to start with the Braves next home series. They're just trying to make sure he's ready to go, but his stuff looks amazing. I didn't get a good view when I stopped by, so I actually went and watched the actual broadcast when he came in. And his last strikeout, that thing was up. That thing was mid to upper 90s, and blew it right by one of the better left-handed hitters of the Jumbo Shrimp. And man, I'm telling you right now, it was just absolutely amazing. So with all that being said, the Braves are going to be looking at a bullpen that is pretty, I'm not going to say it's in great shape, but it's getting a hell of a lot better. That's the best thing that I can tell you. It's getting a hell of a lot better, because that bullpen is, you got Iglesias and Bummer. They will be well rested. They were not using the Wednesday game. Iglesias was not using the Tuesday game. We're off Thursday. And so now we go into Friday. Iglesias should be reset. Bummer should be reset. I didn't see this till after the ball game, but one of the writers said that we tweeted it during the game, but pre-game, Snicker told him that Iglesias and Bummer weren't likely to be used. And of course we saw that because the Braves ended up winning the game on Thursday 4-1. And so with all that being said, you're going to end up with what is possibly a well-rested bullpen, a bullpen that's pitching much better. We still have holes, but if Kimbrel can be half as good as he's been down in the minor leagues so far, that really helps you on a. Now, the biggest concern that I have with him, but they have been using him as setup in the minor leagues. But the biggest concern that I have with him, in fact, last night he was using the 8th inning, and I'm glad they're doing that because the past several years with Kimbrel, if he hasn't been your closer, he doesn't seem to be locked in, and he doesn't seem to have that same edge to him, I guess would be the best word. I don't know. But with all that being said, I believe that he could be the big answer in the back of that bullpen heading in with Iglesias. We still don't have necessarily what you would say a devastating lefty to close it down, but Dylan Lee's done pretty well. And I've got faith in Dylan Lee in the 7th and 8th inning. He's not going to blow guys away, but he's got a very crafty slider. He's got a solid fastball, and he's very tough on lefties. Bummer is one of those guys that is a reverse guy, meaning that he's actually much tougher on righties, which you love from a left-hander. And he's more of a guy, realistically, you go to bring in a jam. And I know he got a bad rap when he first came up, and everyone was making fun of him because of his name, and he had a couple of bad outings. But honestly, if you look at what he's done the past year, Aaron Bummer's been pretty damn good. The reason why he doesn't get a lot of love and praise is because he's not a strikeout guy. You bring Aaron Bummer in realistically to kill a rally, and that's what they use him for typically. Now, there are times where he comes in and starts off the inning, and there have been a lot of times. I think he's much better at that, but most pitchers are. But he is a guy that they will go get, and the reason why is because his best pitch is that sharp dipping sinker, and he's trying to get you to bang it on the ground for a double play. That's his game. So you start to see the pieces of the bullpen start to unfold. And remember, we still got other guys down there. We haven't heard much about them, but remember Buck Farmer, remember a couple of the other guys. I mean, these are guys that they're going to need at some point this year because bullpen arms never stay healthy because they typically get used 60 to 70 times in a game. In a season, 60 to 70 times in a season. They try to keep it around the 50 range, but they typically, if you're a very good bullpen arm and you're on a very good team and you're actually making a run towards the playoffs, you're usually used around 60. Usually north of 60. Usually they try to keep you below 70, but it's usually much more of the 40 to 50 range. And the point is you're up being used, we'll say 2 to 3 times a week at the very most. They usually try to keep you 1 to 2, but we'll just say there's a lot of times where you go 3 times a week, which we know happens. Well, eventually, man, you get dead arm, you have some injury, whatever. You hit spots where you're just not that efficient. They have to kind of, some of them you can't shut them down because of the roster game, but you have to go send other guys down to bring guys up because you don't want to use so-and-so on this day because he's really been flat the last couple of outings. So that's all. That's all I'm saying on that because Bummer, if you go back and look at his numbers, which I have, he was much better down the back end of the year last year than people remember. And it's because when we first got him, A, he has the funny last name, and B, he got off to a rough start. And fans tend to remember the bad starts to a season much more than they do the middle bulk and going forward. And had we made a run in the playoffs, all that would have been by the wayside. But we were, 2 in barbecue, and we were heading off back to Atlanta saying, see you next year. So that really never came into play. But you look at all the times that he was used, and Jimenez and all the guys in the bullpen did a great job last year. If it wasn't, the Braves never get to the playoffs. I know it's terrible that we got eliminated immediately, but think of all the teams that don't get to make the playoffs at all. We had what was a difficult but a rememberable 2024 because it was so damn hard to make the playoffs. And then the way the whole thing unfolded where they had to play the next day after a doubleheader against the Mets, they really had no real shot. We were hoping to, any given any given day, obviously, kind of like the movie Any Given Sunday, any given day you can win, but you weren't looking great when you looked at what you had options for in the starting pitching. Because if you remember, Sale was unavailable because he was injured. The whole thing fell apart. But Aaron Bummer was a big part of that success. So my point is the bullpen in general has been really, really impressive. Really impressive. The next thing that I'll say here is that looking at, so talked about Kimbrel, and he should be back anytime. Probably within the next week, I would think, maybe sooner. You never know. We do these on noon on Friday, so I don't really know what the roster moves are going to be right before first pitch. So people that come in and they listen to the audio replay, I always see these comments. I'm like, yeah, I know something happened at 4:00, but we do these at noon, so try to keep up. You look at the pitching schedule for this weekend. As I let me pull out of this real quick and see if I can get that. All right, here we go. All right, so what we have right now is, let me see if I can actually get this thing to scroll sideways. That's a little too big, but what we have here is the there we go. There's the pitching matchup. So if you look at your screen, you've got Sale versus Gallen, Holmes versus Merrill Kelly, and Schwellenbach versus Fott. The guy who's pitched the best so far for the Diamondbacks of these three has been Brandon Fott. And so that's going to be a nip and tuck game, the third game of the series on Sunday. Merrill Kelly is a pretty solid veteran, and you could never assume that you're going to put up a lot of runs on anybody, especially a veteran like Kelly. But he is coming in with the 4.73 ERA. And we've already talked about how Gallen's not off to a great start. If you look at what he's done recently, I'm talking about Merrill Kelly at this point. He had one awful outing the second game of the series in Yankee Stadium. He went 3 2/3. I remember this game. I just didn't know that he pitched. I remember it being on in the background when we were having our own damn problems. But 3 2/3, and he went 9 earned runs. I mean, he was basically forced to stay out there and take one for the team, right? But outside of that, Merrill Kelly, 2 earned runs, 1 earned run, 1 earned run, 1 earned run. So of the, was it 1, 2, see, of the 5 starts that he's had, one was a bust, the 9 earned runs. The other 4, 3 of them he only gave up 1 earned run, and he went over 5 innings in all 4 of them. The other one, it was just 2 earned runs. So when you look at it, Merrill Kelly, that's going to be a tough matchup. There's no way around it. It's going to be a tough matchup. Brandon Fott's pitched pretty well. Talked about that. And then once again, tonight's game, if you look at the matchup and where Gallen is coming in with the 5.6 ERA, and that seems enormously high for Gallen, as talented as he is. But if you look at his game log, so the first game of the season, 4 innings, 4 earned runs. You know that's going to rip your ERA. The next time he's at Yankee Stadium, he went 6 2/3 and shut him out. Then he comes back home against Baltimore, goes 4 2/3, gives up 5. And April 13th, sorry, we got a delivery at the door, so you're going to hear the dogs barking in the background. But 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 1 home run at home against Milwaukee. Either that or I'm having a home invasion. It's one of the two. So, and then his last time out at Chicago, 6 innings, 6 earned runs. And let me see. That wasn't the crazy game. That was not the crazy game on the Friday where there was the seesaw affair and Arizona had the lead, lost the lead, had the lead, and then lost it in the end. That was a 13-12 instant classic type game. That was the day after. And everything that I read off of that, he didn't have a great outing, but they couldn't go get him because their bullpen was cooked. And so because of the previous game, and they were trying to win that game because they made this huge comeback. So you can understand why that is. But when it's all said and done, this is a team with Arizona that's got a pretty talented bullpen, and they've got a pretty talented pitching roster. For us to beat them, we're not going to be able to just walk in there and do it. We are going to have to, and I mean have to, get some good quality innings today from Chris Sale. Chris Sale has been a disappointment, and I know we're basically coming off of the Cy Young year. So every Braves fan who doesn't know his career compares it off of that. He has had struggles through his career. He normally figures them out. And what you hope that's not happening is that he's hiding some kind of injury. If he's hiding some kind of injury, it's going to be a problem. But other than that, they are expecting Chris Sale to be Chris Sale this weekend. If he does not come out and pitch well again does not once again pitch well, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's going to be concerning. Now, this is a good Arizona Diamondbacks offense, and it's a pretty hitter-friendly park. It's not a tomato can, but it is a hitter-friendly park. But for Chris Sale to come back and be Chris Sale, I'm not worried about his Evo. Everybody was focusing on that one or two starts ago, but I've seen him hit 97 regularly. He typically tries to keep it around 94-ish, 95-ish, because he's got better control with that. And you're not trying to wear yourself out. And he's a veteran. He knows what the hell he's doing. But I've seen him hit 97 a couple of times over the last couple of starts. So the velocity's there. What has not been there has been the control. And it's not just been with his slider. Slider's been catching way too much of the plate. But it's also been his hard stuff, which really sets it up. Now, he did have a couple of starts actually, but we'll just focus on the last one where he was getting pinched, but he was also not hitting his zone, and you don't tend to get the benefit of the doubt if you're not hitting the zone. But he's got the biggest concern that I have this weekend of all the pitchers is what does Chris Sale look like tonight? And that's pretty much it. Because Chris Sale, if he can get back to form where he's going out there giving us 6 or 7 of, it doesn't have to be shutout ball, but 1 run, 2-run ball, the type of stuff an ace does, I'm convinced that Schwellenbach's going through some growing pains, but he didn't have his best stuff the other night, and he actually fought through it and pitched admirably. And as long as the Spencer Strider IL isn't long-term, this pitching staff's going to be really damn good. We still haven't heard any kind of update on Raylo. I don't think we will hear an update anytime soon, but I could be wrong on that. But if they get him back at some point this year, even if it's like, and we were talking about it not too long ago, even if it's just to play in the bullpen, come out of the bullpen, pitch out of the bullpen, you could really add, if you could get the other guys to pitch well enough in the starting rotation for the remainder of the year that we have access to, not just up top, but also down on the farm, like Smith Shawver, which I would expect him to pitch either Monday or Tuesday of next week. You could have something big time in the bullpen if you go, hey, Raylo, what we want to do is take it easy on your arm this year because you're having some issues. Why don't you just go out there and you're going to be one of our bullpen guys? So then you're talking about, and look, if you add an arm at the trade deadline, you could put Grant Holmes back out there. So then you're talking about having a real, you guys thinking about all the things that Anthopoulos is thinking about behind closed doors that he would never utter to the public. But think about if you were to bring in an extra arm, everybody who stays healthy is the assumption. You bring in an extra arm at the deadline. It's like a veteran starting pitcher. It doesn't have to be an ace, but a guy who's a solid number 2, solid number 3, right? Then you're talking about having a bullpen that would not only have eyeglasses, not only would have Kimbrel, but you could be adding Grant Holmes and Raylo. That would be a nasty bullpen. And you hit postseason, if you can get to postseason, holy cow, where do you turn on that? You would like to have a nasty lefty involved in that, but Bummer and Lee haven't been shabby, and you could probably get through it. But you never know what left-hander may end up on the trade market as well. So that's all I've got for that. Let me see if there's any other went through that, talked about AJ Smith-Shawver most likely will be ready to rock in the next series. I do want to make a point that the Strider IL was backdated to the 18th, which was the first day that they could do it. So that means, in theory, he would be available next weekend. Now, is he going to be? Big question mark. But if it's just a slight, and it was just a grade 1 hamstring strain, he should be able to pitch next weekend. If not, then right after that. They may not do it instantly off the 15, but it could be in the Cincinnati Red Series. So you never know, but and honestly, they may not want to bring him back the weekend of the Dodger series because that little extra oomph and let's go get him. And we got, acting like a monster and all that stuff. He can blow his hamstring out again. So all that goes into play. But one of the things I did want to make a point of, because this was pretty interesting. Snitker was asked about the Eli White home run and why he did not pinch hit for Verdugo when the lefty came in, they brought in a righty, and they could have brought Verdugo in to pinch hit for Eli White. I found this interesting. I was thinking about it at the time, but it happened so quick I didn't have a chance to even bring it up because Eli White hit that home run. But he said he was going to have Verdugo pinch it for Fairchild, which, if you remember, Fairchild was in for Kid Kelnick, which was the very next batter. And we had runners on second and third with one out. And the idea was, let's be honest, Fairchild hasn't given us very good at bats. And the pitcher was going to have to face the next three batters anyways. He knew that if they brought in Verdugo for Eli with second and third and one out, they would probably just walk Verdugo, and then it's up to Fairchild to come through. So did want to bring that up because I saw a lot of people complaining and moaning, and for once I would say that was good managing. That was thinking ahead. I've never thought that he's done a poor job with the pinch hitting. The only time we've ever complained with him is it's just been the leadership factor. It's the leadership factor. Stand up for your guys. That's it. That's all we want. We want a pulse in the dugout. That's all it is. But I did find it interesting that they kind of laid that out so that everybody could understand what was going on. Well, we said we're going to try to keep these short and sweet. I might have to edit this down. So if you want to hear the full broadcast, as opposed to just the audio replay, because we may have to edit these down if we go over time like I did today. I just want to make sure that catch us on YouTube on noon on Fridays and Mondays for the next few weeks, but it's the first game of every series. Doesn't matter what time the start time is. It's the first game of the series because we're out west the whole week. We're still doing these at noon. So, and that's because we have people carrying it, simulcasting it around the country. So, we had to be more, more consistent with what our times would be. Because in a perfect world, I would have preferred to do a game where we're not playing. Our first pitch is 9:40 tonight. Perfect world, I would have loved to do one around 4 o'clock because you're closer to when they may make moves. But that's the reasoning behind it. So if they make a move and they decide to trade the whole starting roster to the Los Angeles Dodgers for players to be named later, Don't yell at me because this thing was done at noon. All right. We laugh, but hell, you never know. I could see the Dodgers doing that and then deferring all the money somehow. All right. Y'all have a great one. See if there are any questions let me see here. I don't think there's any questions. So if not, we will jam out of here. Oh, I almost forgot. The post-game show. We are going to experiment it with at the end of this road series. It is going to, so the first one I'm going to try to do, assuming everything lines up correctly, would be Wednesday after the Colorado game, what time does that thing actually start? 3:10? I'm not sure if that's right. So I thought they always started theirs like 40 after the hour. Let me double check that real quick. Are they actually playing at what, 3:10 Eastern? Yeah, that's right. Okay. They used to do 3:40. So after that game, we're going to start a post-game show. I'm sure it's going to be, millions of people going to be watching it because it's the first one ever, but it's going to be on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, it's Braves Country X. But that's where we're going to start doing those. We won't be doing them on YouTube because we're trying to diversify where we are, and you can't be at off the same platform all the time because nobody else sees you. There's a lot of people, believe it or not, don't watch YouTube at all. And they don't and it's just not their thing. And so we're trying to get to the people who want to just jump into a live and, say things and whatever, ask questions, probably a lot of ugly things. I'm sure we'll run into Philly fans, but we're going to do them on TikTok, and that starts on Wednesday. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work, but we're going to try it because I just got the notification that we got enough followers to be able to go live, but I don't know how it works. And for you to actually do one, you have to literally go live. So I'm just going to go live Wednesday after the game on Wednesday night, and we'll just see how it works. It may be an absolute disaster, but we'll eventually get it worked out. I thought there would be like a training mode, but their training mode, from the way that they sell it, is, well, you have about 30 to 60 seconds to train, and then you will go live. I'm like, well, I don't want to go live right now. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I might push the wrong button and set off a Scud missile somewhere. So we'll see you at the game time, 9:40 first pitch. Y'all have a good one, Braves Country.